The Edmonton Oilers are down 1-0 in their playoff series to the Vancouver Canucks after a difficult game one loss. I got a good night's sleep. I thought about it. I cooked up some ideas. I think we're going to be okay, Oilers fans. Let's get to work.
You are Locked On Oilers, your daily podcast on the Edmonton Oilers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Locked On Oilers. I am your host, Nick Zararis. 3 whole weeks. We're doing a good job so far. As long as the Oilers are alive, we keep the show on rolling. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. There's no I in team, but there is one in Indeed, and that's the hiring platform you need to build yours. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. So, Oilers fans, by the time the game ended, we got yesterday's episode up. I got in bed. It was about 3 a.m. on the East Coast was when I think I finally put my head to the pillow. And I'll be honest with you, like most of you, I was pretty frustrated. I felt the Oilers did not play well. I felt the Oilers let that game get away from them, and they did not meet the moment. And I know that sounds like the cliche talking head speak that I deride all of the time. And to some extent, it is. To some extent, that's the type of analysis you expect from PK Subban and Mark Messier and Paul Bissonnette and Anson Carter on the American panels of intermission reports during these playoff games. That's not a game you can lose if you're the Oilers, because that has a psychological impact, that has an energy impact, and it changes the complexion of the series. It gives the Canucks a sense that we can play with these guys. And of course, they're a team of professional hockey players. They thought that anyway. But now they have proof of concept. Now they have some actionable intel that we can play this way and we can get our desired outcome. I don't think the Canucks will be able to match that defensive intensity for the entirety of a playoff series because, frankly, they played really good defense last night. But I do think there are some things they're going to be able to replicate. So from an Oilers perspective, the chance creation wasn't there. Depending on which website's tracking model you look at, somewhere in the ballpark of 35 to 40 scoring chances for the Oilers, only 20-something shots on goal. Just not a whole lot of offense. And you might say, why is that? Why weren't the Oilers able to get their offense, their very potent, dangerous, fancy stats loving offense that was really good all regular season? And it's a few things. It's a few stylistic factors combined. So number one, the Oilers top six, when it's buzzing, when you've got McDavid and Draisaitl both lines going, they are what we would categorize as a rush-based offense. Meaning when they get the puck through the neutral zone and they gain the zone with speed, they typically carry the puck into the zone. One of the counters for that as a defense, and something the Canucks did a good job of, is playing a high defensive line. If you're familiar with soccer tactics, this is one of the prevailing sentiments, one of the prevailing ideological strategies of the last 5 to 10 years that's found a lot of success, particularly in Champions League football, is playing a high defensive line and forcing those players to make decisions sooner than they want to. That's the entire ethos of playing a high-pressure system, the way the Canucks did to great effect last night, is as soon as the Oilers enter the offensive zone with possession of the puck, that is when they are most susceptible to turning the puck over. When a player skates into the offensive zone with possession of the puck on their stick, they have to look up and they have to assess. Do I dump this down along the boards and rim it along? Do I pass this laterally to my left or right, or do I keep skating it? They have to make that split-second determination as a player is bearing down on them. You have seen teams in the playoffs, whether it be the Kings or in round one against the Oilers, the Rangers in round one against the Capitals, or the Rangers against the Hurricanes. They'll have the 3 guys along the blue line defending it. And that way, as soon as you enter the zone, you're probably going to have 2 guys bearing down on you. And the Canucks were able to force the Oilers to do that. dump the puck in, or outright turn the puck over. When you are a team like the Oilers that is based on skill and speed, you're gonna have a harder time when this game slows down. One of the drawbacks of being a skill and a rush-based offense is that it can be hard to buy zone time. And zone time does not necessarily correlate with scoring chances and shots on goal, but it does help generate shots on goal. If you're in the offensive zone for longer and longer, the chances of you getting a better look, they're going to be there. The Canucks also blocked a ton of shots. The Oilers settled for a lot of shots from the point, and they weren't able to get pucks on net as easily as they had in the past. But when you are a team like the Oilers that is so good at manipulating space, at getting the puck to dangerous areas, to skating the puck to dangerous areas, it's easy to get frustrated if the looks you're looking for aren't there. There were definitely quite a few frustration shots from the point that got blocked by defenseman shins going back the other way that set up counterattacks. And the Oilers scored 4 goals on 1.49 even strength expected goals. They had 1 power play goal in there. So 3 goals on 1.49 expected goals. That supports our working theory. You heard me talk about this on the show yesterday as soon as the game ended. You need to be peppering Arthur Shelovs as much as you possibly can. You need to be throwing pucks at him from every direction. You need your forwards crashing the net. You need them screening the goalie. You need them looking for rebounds. You need them looking for deflections. Make this guy prove he can make the saves. The Canucks had no problem doing this to Stuart Skinner. And yeah, some of it is on the defense in front of Skinner. I don't think the defense was great last night from an Oilers perspective. I thought they turned the puck over a lot. I thought they made bad pinches in the neutral zone or the offensive zone, and it allowed the Canucks to have rushes going back the other way. But when you are a rush-based offense like the like the Oilers, you are going to have to take your time in a series like this, because the Canucks are okay with that. They want you to gain the zone fast and make a decision fast. If you shoot and they get the save cleanly, they're probably going to be able to recover the puck and go the other way. That's the other real drawback of being a rush offense, is you typically only get 1 scoring chance when you gain the offensive zone as a rush offense. Because you're typically getting closer to the net, that shot is either being saved or it's being saved cleanly. We're getting a face-off and we're going to the next sequence. Or the goalie's making the save and their defenseman, at least one of them, is back because it's a rush, and they're going to recover the puck and they're going to try and go back the other way. Good defensive teams are able to absorb that rush offense pressure and go back the other way. That's what makes them dangerous. It's a counterattack style. Like you heard me just say a minute ago, it's similar to how you see really high-level clubs play in soccer, where it's okay to get outshot, it's okay to get outchanced. But the Canucks played such good defense last night, they didn't give the Oilers a lot. You haven't even heard me say that McDavid had 1 scoring chance, 0 shots on goal, 0.015 expected goals. If you can hold the best player in the world that ineffective, yeah, I think there's something to be said for the Canucks defense. Now, I know the lines weren't optimal last night. I know no Henrique. I know Janmark was playing up there with McDavid and Hyman. I know Evander Kane got in there for, I want to say, like a minute and a half, 2 minutes at even strength as well. Depending on whether or not Henrique plays, I think there's an argument to recalibrate the offensive lines, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the 3rd segment of today's show. But coming up next, we are going to talk about Stuart Skinner, the goaltending, and a whole lot more coming up next on Locked On Oilers, where we've got your team covered every day. One of the most important responsibilities you have as a provider is life insurance. It is a safety net for your family, but trying to find the right policy on your own time can be time-consuming and overwhelming. With Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policygenius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of experts is on hand to help walk you through the process every step of the way. Talk to a team of award-winning agents who can help you make a difference. Easily compare quotes from all of America's top insurers with a few clicks to find the best price. It's important. Your work life insurance policy may not offer enough protection for your family's needs. And even worse, if you switch jobs, it may not come with you. Policygenius gives you unbiased advice from a licensed expert support team. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonnhl or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonnhl. Want to thank everybody who's making this Friday edition of Locked On Oilers a part of your day, whether it's first thing in the morning, in the afternoon, on the way home. I'm glad this is a part of your day. I know puck drop on playoff game days feels like it takes forever to get to. And then once the game starts, it goes 1,000 miles an hour. And it is an agonizing experience to watch. I'm going to be fair to Stuart Skinner here. I did this after game 2 of the Kings series where I felt he was really bad, where he was actively harming their chances of winning that game. Anytime you score 5 goals in an NHL game, you feel like you should probably win, especially when you have the talent the Oilers do. And to score 5 goals against the Kings, who were the good defensive team in the regular season, that bodes well for your team. But you want to be fair to a young guy that doesn't have a lot of experience. And I know, as an Oilers fan, you don't want to hear excuses for the goalie. The Oilers' biggest fault for a lot of this McDavid Draisaitl era has been the goalie. Whether it's Cam Talbot, whether it's Mike Smith, whether it's Jack Campbell, now Stuart Skinner, you feel you're entitled to one guy to make a freaking save. And you look around at some of the teams that have won Stanley Cups in recent years, like the Blues with Jordan Binnington, the Avalanche with Darcy Kemper, the Golden Knights with Adin Hill. You are waiting for the Oilers to get their version of that guy, the Cam Ward, if you will. They are waiting for one of these goalies off of the goalie carousel to make a discernible difference, to steal them a game here or there. And the Oilers are good enough where they should be able to get by with just average goaltending. Not good, average. They don't need Stuart Skinner to be outstanding. They just need him to be average. If Stuart Skinner is average last night, and I'm saying this on Thursday about the Wednesday night game, so yes, if Stuart Skinner is average in game 1, the Oilers win that game. The Canucks scored 5 goals on 2.8 expected goals. That is a poor reflection on Stuart Skinner. That is accounting for the quality of scoring chances. The only goaltenders with lower goals saved above expected in the playoffs have all been eliminated. Cam Talbot, Charlie Lindgren, Connor Hellebuck. Those 3 guys have all been eliminated. Arthur Shelovs, I should say, excuse me, I want to make sure I pronounce that right. He's 12th. And Shelovs has 0.85 above expected in 4 games. That's not good. That 0.85 is right there average. 12 of the 17, 18 guys who have gotten in net for this in the playoffs. That's not good, but it's passable. That is the threshold Stuart Skinner needs to meet. If he plays as well as Shelovs does in this series, the Oilers will win this series in relatively convincing fashion. If Stuart Skinner is going to have the struggles he did last night, as I said on the episode yesterday, the Connor Garland goal can't happen. I'm willing to give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt on the JT Miller deflection, on the Lindholm bank. The Connor Garland goal cannot happen. Period. It can't. It's 5-hole. Darnell Nurse does an okay job there on that. You would like him to move his feet a little bit more as opposed to reaching with his stick. You've heard me talk about this a little bit on the show. You want your defensemen to use their body to take away space as opposed to their stick because it forces the player to move. If it's a stick that's reaching out, it's a little bit easier to get around as opposed to a big physical imposing NHL body. But the thing that stuck out to me about the Garland goal, other than it not being a particularly good scoring chance and something Skinner should have had, Skinner immediately dropped his head and came to a knee as soon as the puck hit the net and the goal horn went off, which tells me he knows he should have had that. You heard him say it after the game. We gave that game away. I don't know who this we is. I don't know if Stuart Skinner is speaking French. I did not let that puck in, but enough being to quote a second grade teacher that got made fun of a lot in my life earlier on. Don't be a Weisenheimer, okay? I understand that Stuart Skinner is in a fragile state. And again, professional athlete, you're tired of the excuses for the goalies. I empathize. I do. Riding the goalie in a negative fashion can only hurt you. You, as an Oilers fan, and the team, and Stuart Skinner, we all need the good energy. We all need the good juju. He is a confidence player. If he is feeling good about his game, he can play really well. You saw it in the 1-0 game against the Kings, where as that game went along, he got stronger and stronger. Whereas last night, I should say game one, not last night because this is Friday, but in game one, he did not feel good about his game. And I've made this comparison before here on Locked On Oilers. I've made it on Locked On NHL. I've made it on Locked On Flames. I have made this point everywhere. Being a good goalie is a lot like being a good quarterback. It's a lot like being a good closer in baseball. You have to believe in your ability. And if you have a bad outing the last time out, you need to have the mindset of it never happened. You cannot start to linger, have that feeling of doubt creep in. Because when that doubt starts to creep in, that's how you get stinkers like the Garland goal. Because Skinner starts to get in his own head of, man, I'm letting us down. I need to be better. That's when you start to stink it up. That's when you start to let beach balls in. That's when you start to have Marc-Andre Fleury level meltdowns in the playoffs. That is when you start to have, I'm trying to think, what other goalie has totally, Sergei Bobrovsky level capitulations in the playoffs. When you start pressing, you start losing your technique, you start fighting rebounds off. That's really one of the telltale signs of a goalie that's not playing with a lot of confidence, is when they are giving up big rebounds. Because if they're giving up big rebounds, their main concern at that point is just getting in front of the puck. They're not managing their rebound control well. And that's typically a sign of a goalie fighting it. You've heard that expression watching sports. You hear that a lot in baseball from a hitter, where they're fighting it. They're not taking what's coming to them, and they're trying to hit the ball in the air, or they're getting under the ball. They're on top of the ball and hitting choppers. When you start to fight it as a goalie in the NHL, especially in the playoffs, the opponents can smell blood. That's what happened. Connor Garland takes that fake shot. He gets Nurse to lean. He gets Skinner to open up ever so slightly. He gets beat 5-hole. I hope Stuart Skinner has had a good off day. I hope the Oilers have done everything in their power to help him recharge and reset. They cannot go to Calvin Pickard. They cannot go to Jack Campbell. I know you're going to say, well, why not? Why not? The other teams have tried it. Neither of those guys was good enough to usurp I almost said Jack Campbell again, usurp Stuart Skinner in the regular season. I know Stuart Skinner has not been good in the playoffs. You heard me say the goal saved above expected stat, the fourth worst of anyone in the playoffs. The only three guys below him have all been eliminated. He needs to be better. He knows that. I hope the Oilers can find a way to get him out of his head and get him prepared for game number 2. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the game 2 reset coming up next on Locked On Oilers, where we've got your team covered every day. There's no I in team, but there is one in Indeed, and that's the hiring platform you need to build yours. When you're hiring, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's powerful hiring platform can help you do it all. We streamline hiring with powerful tools that find you matched candidates. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed data from the United States. The thing I love most about Indeed is that everything is all in one place. You can take assessments, set up interviews, and have the actual interviews through Indeed. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/locked-on. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/locked-on. Indeed.com/locked-on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Hope everybody had a good work day on Friday. Hope everyone is looking forward to this weekend. Hopefully the Oilers can do their part, get the weekend off to a good note, win tonight, send you into your Saturday with better feelings than everybody went into their Thursday with. I know that is the type of game where you're going to stare at the ceiling if you're an Oilers fan, if you're on the team. There's a good chance Stuart Skinner was staring at the ceiling till 4 a.m. Wednesday night into Thursday morning, because he knows he needed that. And you heard me wrap up the thought at the end of the second segment, the idea that the Oilers need to reset and get him right. The big thing for the Oilers, and I said this in regards to the Rangers and the Hurricanes, I said this in regards to the Bruins and the Panthers on Locked On NHL with Hunter Hodes when we did the power rankings yesterday. You need to match the energy and the intensity of your opponent. You can get outplayed. That's going to happen. Someone is going to outplay somebody over the course of a game. That's why we play the games. Someone is going to win. Why they win? Different conversation. One thing that you cannot negotiate with, you can get outplayed and still win. It is really hard to still win without matching the energy and the intensity of your opponent. You saw the Panthers come out a little flat in game 1 against the Bruins. They had a long layoff. They beat Tampa in 5 games. The Bruins were in that every other day routine playing against the Leafs. Bruins beat them real bad. That's a tough loss. You don't feel good. Lose on home ice. Panthers came back, stomped the mud hole in them. To quote the great Jim Ross, they whipped the Bruins like a government mule. Then, just for fun, to prove how ready the Bruins were, to prove how ready the Panthers were for the Bruins, they kicked their butts too. And look, I know a lot of people, Oiler fans in particular, are going to stick their noses up and say, oh, well, Matthew Tkachuk, he's a dirtbag, he's a dirty player, whatever. His teammates don't think so. His teammates love the fact he beat up David Pastrnak. His teammates think it's awesome that he goaded Pastrnak into a fight. They don't care. And that's the real conundrum of it all. Because as a fan, you want to maintain a base level of decorum here. You don't want your star players to be in fights, but Tkachuk very clearly got under their skin. Brandon Montour very clearly got under Brad Marchand's skin. And now I'm not saying the Oilers need McDavid and Draisaitl to come out and start throwing cross checks and sticking their tongues out at people like they're in middle school to antagonize the Canucks. But the Oilers need to play with more intensity. They need to play with more energy. You would think a game that was played as fast as that game 1 was would benefit Edmonton because they're a speed team, they're a skill team. When the Canucks had the puck, the game was going 100 miles an hour. When the Oilers had the puck, the Canucks were playing at 100 miles an hour. The Oilers were playing about 65 miles per hour. The Oilers looked uncomfortable with the puck for long stretches of that game. Once they got out to the 3-1 lead, you can tell they very clearly pulled up. No Draisaitl drastically alters how they approach the game, because at that point, you really only have one line that's going to generate offense, and that was McDavid's line, and they didn't. McDavid's line got thoroughly outchanced. You heard me say before, McDavid, 1 scoring chance, 0 shots on goal. That's not going to cut it. So, calibrating this reset. If I were Chris Knobloch, this is what I would say. We didn't play well in game 1. We can all look around. I didn't do a good job managing our game. Once Leon went out, I needed to adjust what I was doing. I probably should have called a timeout after the Zadorov goal. I probably should have called timeout when we were in the 6-on-5 and you guys had been out there for 45 seconds. I need to be better, but I need you guys to be better too. We're both going to play better tonight, but we need to match their energy. We need to match their intensity. We didn't play well and we almost beat them. If we come out and play well, we can beat their you-know-whats. That's the mindset I would have if I was Chris Knobloch. I would come out there and say, if we go out there and play a good game tonight, we can kick their effing A's, okay? That's the mindset here. You come out here and say that to your guys, you get them ready to come through a brick wall, and that can swing some momentum. The Oilers need to come out in this first game. They need to pepper Shelovs, and they need to let Skinner ease his way into this game. If it's a white knuckler, if it's 1-1 in the third period, I wouldn't feel good about that if I were the Oilers. The one ace in the hole the Oilers have, we're going to get angry Connor McDavid in game 2. And some players playing angry, it benefits them. Some players, it gets more from them because they have a little bit more juice, because they're in their own head about, I wasn't good, I need to be better, and trying to make things happen. And Connor's already a psychopath when it comes to that. It's not quite Crosby levels of robot of, I need to be the best player on the ice at all times, but it's the second best version of that I've ever seen. I mean, when McDavid needs to be a dump and chase guy, he wins every foot race and he wins every stick battle because he's genuinely that good at hockey. You get McDavid locked in on, I didn't have a shot on goal. All right, I'm going to go out there and have 6 tonight. That's the kind of mindset the Oilers need to have. They need McDavid to have in this game. And then number 2, I'm pulling Darnell Nurse and Cody Ceci aside. I'm going to touch each of them on the shoulders. I'm going to have them shoulder to shoulder next to each other, one hand on one hand on the other, and say, boys, watch the pinches, because I commend their confidence in their abilities as hockey players. They are not as good as they think they are. And that's the conundrum you have as a coach when you have defensemen who have a little bit of offense to their game. Yes, I know Ceci scored a goal. I know Darnell Nurse has had, 40-something point seasons. You are not here to help generate offense right now. We have Evan Bouchard and Matthias Ekholm for that. Your guys' job, good defense. It's not a coincidence. The worst game the Oilers play all playoffs also coincides with a game where Nurse and Ceci get caved in at 5-on-5 and are on the ice for a couple goals against. Watch your pinches, especially in the offensive zone. Because when Ceci starts calling his own number, like a quarterback down on the goal line with the QB sneak, he leaves Nurse in 2-on-1s going back the other way. And Nurse isn't fast. Just frankly speaking, Nurse is not fast enough to help mitigate those 2-on-1s, and that puts more pressure on Skinner. And then last thought, you're going to take Knobloch at his word. I'm going to take it with a hint of skepticism, but if McDavid, if Draisaitl only is dealing with cramps, okay, have some bananas, make sure you drink a little bit more water on game day for game 2. Okay. If he's still not 100%, if it's something that's sore as opposed to a cramp, then I think we have to recalibrate how we're going to do our lines here. I think if Draisaitl's not 100%, I think there's a real argument to have him ride shotgun with McDavid, and you try and figure everything else out, because you need to do whatever you can to maximize what Draisaitl can do. Everyone remembers the series 2 years ago. He played on the bum leg. I think it was his ankle. It was his ankle. They were talking about it on the intermission report last night, and I've been erroneously saying his knee. I misremembered, but they need to do whatever they can to facilitate Draisaitl playing well. It was very clear he was uncomfortable even once he got back in the game. If Draisaitl's not right, the Oilers' battle is going to be significantly more uphill. I believe the Oilers will come out and win tonight. It's probably not a good thing to make prognostications like that. I do think they are better than the Canucks. I think if they play a good game, I think they can smoke the Canucks. That will do it for today's edition of Locked On Oilers. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. Leave the show a 5-star review. We broke the 900 subscriber threshold on YouTube in the last few weeks. We're getting there. Nice. Everybody, welcome along for the ride. Glad to have you aboard. Hopefully, I'm talking to you guys tomorrow. Yes, we're going to have a Saturday episode after the Oilers tie this series at 1. Until then, let's go Oilers!